Sidetracked, the music podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of the Sidetracked Music Podcast. It's an exciting time because you probably, well, if you're listening on the podcast app, you haven't noticed this, but we are now a video podcast. So for better or for worse, you can see our faces if you go and watch on YouTube. So, I mean, that's up to you. But yeah, so on YouTube, we'll be releasing on our channel. You can just look up the Sidetracked Music Podcast. It'll be slightly rawer versions because we're recording them live. So we're not going to be kind of cutting as much. But the episode that you get in your podcast app will be exactly the same as how you had it in Season 1, with the same, traditionally smooth and, clever transitions. We've cut out Zephyr's ramblings and that kind of thing. But unfortunately on YouTube, you're going to have to, but yeah, okay. Well, Zephyr, hello. Welcome.
Hello.
We can see each other.
Yeah, it's weird. I can actually do the whole moving my hands and people will actually see it. I mean, people listening to it at home, if you're listening to this through Spotify, of course, or Apple Music or whatever, yeah, you won't be seeing me. But anyone on YouTube who wants to, cross-reference all my movements to finally understand what I'm actually trying to say, you can look at the YouTube and it'll be there.
Yes. And Zach, hello. You've been exposed with your slightly makeshift microphone.
I have, yeah. You can see it's kind of falling off, so I've put tape on the microphone stand. So, yeah, it's a little bad. But yeah, it's nice, great to be back. It's been a long time.
Yes. I've missed it.
Me too.
And there's various other exciting things that you can do to help us out, because if you're listening on Spotify, or even if you're not, you can go and rate us now on Spotify. They've just started podcast ratings. So go give us a 5 stars. Well, that's if you think it's a 5-star
even
podcast,
if you don't even have
nice.
Spotify, download Spotify just to rate us.
We would.
Yeah,
we do want some
exactly.
honest reviews, though. So if you do actually have any criticisms, we'd like to see what you have to criticize, and tell us. Send us an email, comment on YouTube, because this is now on YouTube. And
Zephyr's excited.
I'm very excited. Yeah, shameless plugs.
I mean, and talking of interactions. So because it's now video, so our social channels will be much more interesting than they previously were, because we can post clips and stuff of bloopers, funny moments, that kind of stuff. Of all of the episodes, so you can go and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @SMusicPodcast. And if you have any brief ideas which you'd like us to do, you can send them in via either YouTube comments or on Instagram or Twitter. And you never know, we might do your brief. You would, yeah. I mean, this is basically, it's quite a lazy move, I'll be honest. We're maybe running out of ideas, but I mean,
already, wow.
But anyway, we welcome suggestions. That's the honesty. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Zach has set the brief today.
I have set
Zach,
the
what
brief.
Have you got for us?
I'm surprised we haven't done this yet, actually. I've set the brief of favourite covers. So today we're going to be going over covers of the song and also looking at the original and maybe doing a bit of a comparison between those two. So yeah, it should be good. Who do you want to start with?
I guess Zephyr maybe wants to start.
Zephyr.
Yeah, I can give us a go. So I chose Lady Marmalade, or maybe Marmalade. However, if you're British, Marmalade, but if you're, I guess, American, Marmalade.
Who says marmalade?
I don't know. I think that's how they say it in the song, anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
They say
French.
Lady Marmalade. They don't say Marmalade. Yeah, French. Yeah, it is a French word. That would make sense. But yeah, no. So the original is by LaBelle. But we're looking at the cover version because, of course, this is covers from Moulin Rouge, which I've never actually seen it. It's a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, and a musical.
Or something like that. And a musical, yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it for a while. I think I saw the movie ages ago. But yeah, it's got a killer soundtrack. So I definitely recommend checking that out.
And yeah, so this has got the cover of that of that song, which is covered by Pink, Mia, or Maya, don't know how to pronounce it, Lil Kim, and Christina Aguilera, who I always can never type or pronounce her name. But she's an amazing vocalist. They're all amazing vocalists. So I guess we're gonna have to listen to the original first, so we can kind of see what that was like. And that was released in 1995. So yeah, let's have a listen to that now.
All right, so it's Lady Marmalade by La Belle.
Yeah, so that was the original version. I've listened mostly to this version, and I got reminded by the cover version when Zach set the brief of looking for covers, and I remember this amazing cover. So what I really like about the cover, which we're going to listen to just after I talk about it a bit, is that it's kind of taking its own kind of spin on it, and it's not just copying the source material entirely. And that's what I think what makes a good cover, and we'll probably see that throughout the kind of the own spins that artists put on it to make it kind of their own, because covers aren't just meant to be a carbon copy of what the source material. So yeah, this one's good. It has a rap section that Lil Kim does, which I think is really cool, and it adds a kind of different spin on it, which I've said multiple times now. And yeah, I just think that's the coolest part, like the kind of the difference that you see. So I think we should listen to that. The Moulin Rouge version. To get a listen.
Where's all my soul sisters? Let me hear your flow, sisters.
Hey, sister, go, sister, soul, sister, flow, sister.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just really like the modern approach and the modern production as well. That's something I didn't mention before, but that modern production of it is just so cool. The kind of the more of a backbeat style. It's got like the R&B sort of vocal hits and the chops in the background. The drums are just hitting way harder in your ears.
Yeah,
it's
there's
just
even
the
like
bass as well.
There's like that brief Hammond organ, like right at the intro.
Yeah,
it sounded really cool.
I found it funny that they kept, because like the one constant I think that there is from the original song is there's the organ that's playing that kind of note, in the background, in the kind of chorus, and because they've kind of really modernized the sound, because the arrangement itself is quite similar, but they've changed the drums to a more modern sound, the kind of synth sound, but there's still the organ just in the back as a little kind of tribute or something.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
I actually got the date from the original wrong, which would explain why it's so much different in production. It was not 1995. I think that was a remaster of it. I think the original was actually released in 1974.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's got it explains a lot. So that it's a much more kind of vintage, kind of old recording style. And the new twist on it, which was released in 2001, I should have mentioned. It just adds that kind of modern spin, the kind of the super nice, clean production. It's just so,
I was going to say it sounds a lot cleaner in the 2001 version. I'm not.
But part of the magic of the original, is like how the kind of like slight grittiness, of just like the 70s and that kind of vibe.
It's true. I was going to say I'm not like that kind of knowledgeable in mixing. Not like our resident mixer Zephyr, but like just hearing those two songs, like you just hear what an incredible difference mixing had it comes so far in just like 30 years. It's quite insane. Yeah, it's very cool. And each verse in the cover version is sung by a different one of the members. So I think the first one's Mia,
then Pink, and then Lil Kim does her rap verse, and then Christina Aguilera just does her insane verse where she does like these amazing like runs, the vocal runs.
Signature,
Definitely go listen to go listen to both versions. I actually regularly listen to the original LaBelle version pretty much all the time. I think they were like a kind of vocal trio, kind of soul trio group.
Huh.
But yeah, that was my cover. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
All right. So I guess I'll take the next one. I have done. This is a song that I didn't actually realise was a cover until recently. But I've done Respect, originally by Otis Redding, but made iconic by Aretha Franklin. And this was a kind of interesting one actually, because the person who actually originally wrote the song is unknown. It's a bit of a weird one. But the first kind of recording that was released was by Otis Redding, and it was one of his more successful songs actually. And it was so he released it in 1965, and it was one of his own kind of favorite ones. And interestingly though, so the lyrics are actually kind of, so when they're sung by a man, so like by Otis Redding, so it focuses on like the traditional like family gender structures of the time, you know, with the man coming home from work, and there's songs about him wanting respect from his wife, which also has various innuendo, which I won't go into, but it means kind of very other things as well, which is slightly, you know, I mean, it's quite dated to be honest. But what I find amazing, so not only did Aretha Franklin transform this musically, but she transformed it lyrically, and eventually it became like an anthem for the civil rights, the women's rights movement in the 70s. And I find it so weird and quite cool that like a song which was originally, you know, quite dated in its lyrics became like such an anthem for like really progressive themes. Anyway, so I'm going to play the original by Otis Redding, which is, I mean, really lesser played. But yeah, so have a listen to it now, and you can hear it. You can really hear the roots of the Aretha Franklin song, which is much better known, but you can also hear how much she changed it and brought to it in her version. So here's Otis Redding's Respect. So yeah, there it is, 1965, Respect from Otis Redding, and you can hear, you know, the lyrics and the original, like the theme and the kind of the underlying tone that Aretha built on. But as we'll hear in a bit, Aretha's version is, I mean, in my opinion, one of the greatest pop songs of all time. It actually. So Aretha's version, she recorded it just 2 years later, which is fun, because a lot of the time, you know, covers like with Lady Marmalade, there's kind of a big gap, and it's like a band taking a much more, you know, modern take on an older song. But it was just 2 years later, she heard the song, she liked it, and in 2021 it went up to #1 in the Rolling Stones 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. So I'm clearly not the only one. I mean, I don't know if it's the greatest song of all time, but like it is in terms of, it's just really, it's simple in so, you know, it's a 60s song, so it's quite simple in its structure. It's got the verse, it's got the chorus, it's got the bridge,
the sax solo,
but it's there's the sax solo as well. And but yeah, so let me just pull up my notes on Aretha Franklin's version. Yeah, so she switched the genders in the lyrics and added her own little twist, like she added the RESPECT bit, which is now, you know, maybe the most iconic bit of the song. So that was her. And so it was the main kind of musical ideas behind her cover also came from Aretha Franklin, but also obviously with, you know, help from the producers and all that. and there's the sax solo, and the bridge was completely her. But yeah, I mean, I think we're just gonna hear it now, and you can hear it turns into a song which is, you know, sung by like a kind of strong, independent woman, completely flipping the narrative. And yeah, so the song is not only a great pop song, but it's also kind of significant in history, I guess. So yeah, here it is.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, hey, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm out to get it.
All right, and there it is. I mean, for starters, Aretha Franklin's voice just perfect for the song.
It warms the soul.
But I neglected to point out that another kind of key part, which I think is iconic in the song, is the backing singers. You know, just going just a little bit. It's just so good. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. It's iconic. What do you guys think?
I love both versions, to be honest. I mean, I don't like the dated sort of undertones of the Otis Redding version, but I do love his voice, and I love a lot of Otis Redding's. It's just got that Motown. I mean, they've both got that Motown feel, but Otis has got, because he was part of Motown, I think. It's just got that kind of that groove. But I actually prefer the production on Aretha's version. It's kind of, it feels a bit more bright. It feels a bit more kind of, it's much more inspirational than the first one. But it's just, yeah, they're both just great. I love the whole, it's just that kind of upbeat sort of funk, easy to listen to funk, but also like super fun. I don't know. I love them both.
Yeah. Zach, you've muted yourself. Is that because someone's practicing?
Yeah, so I'll say my bit quickly. I thought I hadn't noticed the lyrics change really before you mentioned it, and now that you said it, it kind of feels like Aretha's version is like it's like an answer to Otis Redding's version. It's like, well, you want respect. Well, you know, you got to give me some respect as well when you come home. I thought it was really cool. And yeah, I hadn't really noticed the kind of connotations of Otis Redding's lyrics either, which was a bit. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're quite dated, and musically as well.
Yeah,
Aretha's version, I find it more interesting. There's a great sax solo. I said it before, but in the sax solo, it changes key, and like the last chord brings you perfectly back into the chorus. But Otis Redding's version, I think, is just two chords all the way through. It's like older style. It feels more modern, both musically and socially.
You know, I'd like to hear them both sing it together, and like they sing a verse each, and it's like the kind of the different vocals. I mean, obviously that can't happen, but I would have liked. I would have liked to have heard that, because that would have been cool. But I mean, I'm sure someone could splice them together and, you know, with some cool production tricks, make them sound similar.
Maybe even you, Zephyr.
Well, Zephyr, there's your task for next week.
For next week, yeah, we'll play that instead of the
remix. Okay, right. So Zach, well, what have you bought?
I have bought Valerie. This is the Mark Ronson version is the cover, and the original, which I found out quite recently actually, is by the Zootons, or Le Zouton, or the Zuttons, however you want to pronounce it. It's actually a funny story about how I found this out. I got called to do this like rock and roll gig, like kind of blues and rock. It was really fun. I was like in the horn section and everything, and they were calling a bunch of like classic tunes that I kind of knew. And then they called Valerie, and I was a bit like, that's a bit weird, because it doesn't really fit the style of what they're playing. And they started playing it, and I was like, this is not Valerie at all. I was like, what is going on? Like, the tempo's wrong, like the groove's wrong. And they got to the chorus, and they started playing this riff, the original riff, which goes like And of course, I was playing, which is the riff from the new one. And the lead singer kind of turned around and gave me this like stern, like.
Wrong version.
And then I went and did some research, and I was like, they were playing the original, which is it's a great original, not a cover. Yeah, it's a great song. I'd never heard it until like a couple months ago.
It's a funny one because I'd kind of. It was one of those songs. Weird reference, I know, but they used to play it on like Absolute Radio. I mean, the Zootons version,
right?
And it was a weird one because I know like the Amy Winehouse, Mark Ronson version much better, but the Zootons version I kind of know as well, so it's like weirdly familiar.
Right? Yeah.
And it's always surprisingly good when you hear it.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know. It's completely different, which
style.
is a testament to Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse as well.
Exactly. And I'll also talk a bit about the like Amy Winehouse version of Back to Black, which once I'd heard the original version and Mark Ronson's version, I realised it was like the perfect bridge in between those two. Like she used a lot of the original, the Zootons version, and you can also hear stuff in that influenced Mark Ronson's version, which is really cool. Anyway, let's play the original now, without further ado.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things what you do, and in my head I make a picture. 'Cause since I've come on home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. Won't you come on over and stop making a fool out of me? Why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie.
We heard
Yeah.
the little riff that Zach didn't get.
That was it. That was it.
Just
it's
at-
a
just
really
at the
cool
end.
riff, isn't it?
It's a really cool riff, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that whole song is really cool. Like, it feels much more like a rock anthem, or like alt rock anthem. There's like just
I would say anthem.
anthem.
I find the way they do the verse is really cool. I think the space that they leave. It's kind of, the guitar riff is very kind of,
yeah.
I love the
takes
groove.
up a small
The
part
groove's
and then they
lovely.
just
The groove
leave
is
the
really
drums.
cool.
You know.
What I mean by that is like there's a lot going on. Like in the pre-chorus, you've got like distortion guitars, you've got backing vocals, you've got like this like high up guitar riff as well. Like there's a lot going on, as well as also the vocals. What I found quite interesting about Mark Ronson's version is it's completely the opposite. It's very stripped back, and like the intro of Mark Ronson's is just bass, drums, vocals. Like the bass even cuts out at the start of the second verse. And yeah, let's play a bit of that now, actually, just so you guys get some context.
Hi, it's rolling.
Sorry, Charlie Murphy, I was having too much fun.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things what you're doing, and in my head I paint a picture. 'Cause since I come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like to dress. I want you to come on over. Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie?
Yeah. It's a really, really good cover. I mean, so there's so many things to unpack. Like, immediately it's faster, obviously. That's the obvious thing. And the groove is now, like, you got this underlying, like, doom, 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 doom rhythm, rather than just like a, I don't know, Jeff, what would you call the
other one's more like a kind of laid back, I wouldn't say reggae is going too far. It's kind of like, what's that kind of in between? It's like ska. It's got that kind of ska rock, sort of laid back, like really chill kind of beach rock sort of almost style. And then this one's just super up tempo, super upbeat. You've got like do da da da. They've got the snare like every single one. There's no like snare fills. It's just snare every single 2 and 4, and the kicks following that doom 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 doom, and it's just constant. It's like it's just going. It just feels like you're off. Like the moment it starts, the song's just off and it doesn't stop.
I love how you hear the drummer intro with the drumsticks. You know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hear the little kind of conversation. That intro is so
like my
so cool.
favourite part.
You're having too much fun.
Yeah. What did you say apart from? I always hear like you guys are having too much fun, but there's something at the start.
Yeah,
that's what I heard,
always
yeah.
That's the last bit.
Is that
I think
Is
that's
that it. Oh, okay. And also,
Yeah,
she said something
rolling,
before, but I don't know what she
rolling.
says.
Yeah, me neither. I could never quite get that.
But it's quite cool, and yeah, because you never hear the drumstick intro like in a studio recording. You know?
Yeah.
And yeah,
It makes you feel like
they were there,
and I love how.
It's nice. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. No. Okay. So what's happened here is that this is the moment that we usually cut out in what you listen to because we've interrupted
We
each other.
all
but we've
spoke
gotta
at the
soldier
same
on.
time.
Oh, yeah,
Like
classic.
literally all our mouths moved right at the same time. And we were like,
Yeah.
It's the magic of online podcast recording. Anyway,
I'll
Zach,
go.
what else do you have to
I was
say?
going to say I really like the way Mark Ronson uses the instruments that he's using. I think it's slightly more creative than the original. Like what I realised when I listened to it again just recently, I was like, he basically doesn't have a chordal instrument. Like he doesn't really have guitar or keys like in the forefront, like driving the harmony forward. He like relies on using horns and strings until like right at the end when there's a guitar. But like most of the time, there's not really a guitar or piano really to be heard, unless it's like right at the back, which is like completely different to the original, where you know it's just that heavy guitar right at the front of it, driving the chords forward. And yeah, there's also just so many things, like he builds it so well with like at the start you heard just bass drums and Amy, and then he adds in like horns in the pre-chorus, and then he switches it up in the second chorus with like strings, and they have strings and horns together, and it's such a beautiful arrangement. And then you get the breakdown where it's just the like guitar and Amy Winehouse's voice, which is also brilliant. And one more thing about the chords, because we've got to have some nerdy chord trivia. Interestingly,
naturally.
In Mark Ronson's version,
Both me and Jules just sigh. Sorry.
In Mark Ronson's version, the major chord that they're playing in the original, the Zootons version, is now a major 7 chord, and the minor chord is now a minor 7 chord. He adds those like 7th extensions just so that it's slightly richer, and these 7th chords wouldn't really be seen dead in the heard dead, seen dead.
I see where you're trying to go. It's a good metaphor.
They wouldn't be heard dead in the Zootons original. No, it doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't work.
Got to say seen. Got to be seen.
But yeah, sorry, I was going to talk about the Amy Winehouse one as well. Could we play a bit of that just after having heard the other two?
Sure. Yeah. So this one, am I right, was originally recorded at the Radio 1 Live Lounge.
Yes.
The cool thing that they do there is when they get an artist in, they always play a kind of acoustic kind of cover of something where you get some real gems in there. But I guess this is possibly the best one to come out ever, I guess. Anyway, here it is.
Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things what we're doing, and in my head I paint a picture. Since I come home, well, my body's been a mess, and I miss your ginger hair and the way you like the dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, Valerie?
Oh,
Yeah.
oof.
Those backing vocals
sorry.
get me every time.
Anyone seeing on YouTube and just see all of us just vibing
those-
so hard at
That,
those.
that choral, the backing,
backing
voicing
vocals on
when
the
they sing the
Valerie.
Valerie is just so wholesome.
It's so
It's
good.
amazing. It's so soulful. Like that is.
And it comes out with the first time you hear it, it comes out of kind of nowhere, you know, because it's very stripped back, and then you just hear
It's
this,
such a
the
shock.
soulful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the thing I like about the best about this version, the soulfulness. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's like the
But
peak.
Did you hear it at the chorus? The bass line was like, dum, ba-doo, bit, but it was like kind of quoting the riff of like the Zootons version.
I didn't notice.
I did
I
not
guess I'm gonna have to
notice
listen to it again
Well,
after this.
Yeah. Well, this is what I found really cool because I could hear both versions in Amy Winehouse's, even though Amy's was before Mark Ronson's. But I really like how it's kind of an in between. Like you got it's kind of it's more stripped back, so that's kind of a like similar to Mark Ronson's version, but it's also much slower, like towards the tempo of the Zootons version. And but then she uses like major 7 chords and minor 7 chords used in the Mark Ronson version, and it has a kind of much groovier, like similar groove to the Mark Ronson. If you get what I mean, like the groove is similar to the Mark Ronson version, even though it's a different tempo.
It's derived from that more so than from the Zootons version.
Yeah,
Or the other way around, the Mark Ronson's derived from hers.
yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, which one?
Mark Ronson
which
was
one
the
came first?
last one.
Yeah,
that
he was-
made.
I reckon
was
he
in
was influenced
2007
by
he did
Amy's
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
His one, actually, about that album that Valerie's on, because I just remembered that I really like another cover that because he does loads of amazing covers where he completely changes the vibe of the song. And there's this Coldplay song called God Put a Smile Upon Your Face, which is very acoustic, lots of guitars, no drums, just vocals, guitars, bass, I think, and maybe some keys. And he does an up-tempo version, super similar to
Coldplay.
Valerie.
Of course, it needs to have keys.
Yeah, no, it definitely has keys. But it's so up tempo, and it's got this group called the Dapton Horns, which add these amazing. Like he's great at producing these super up tempo, sort of super cool, vibey, like taking acoustic sort of chill songs and making them just super energetic. That's like his forte, I'd say, as a producer. I'm a big fan of Mark Ronson.
Yeah, he's really creative.
Yeah, anyway, I haven't got much more to say
others work.
about this. If you guys have anything to chip
Okay.
in. Or
I guess that brings us to a natural conclusion to part 1, where we did the brief. And in part 2, it's my turn to do the artist spotlight, and we'll be talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome to part 2 of the Sidetrack Music Podcast. It's now time for the artist spotlight, where every episode we go through, the history and the catalogue of a certain artist. And so today I'm going to be talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and obviously huge band. They were formed in 1983 in LA, so it's a kind of very good longevity. But it's a really kind of tumultuous story, which I'm going to try and tell through in chronological order through their albums in a really insightful and interesting way, as usual. Anyway, so they basically the concept behind the Chili Peppers is a kind of a fusion of like punk, rock, and funk actually. It's just a kind of really unique sound, and it's kind of changed and developed over the years, but they've always kept that kind of some kind of core ingredients. So it was formed by Anthony Kiedis, Michael Balzari, better known as Flea, the bassist, Hillel Slovak, and Jack Irons. So at the moment, only of those original four, Kiedis and Flea are the only two who remain. So Kiedis is the main vocalist. So it is a classic kind of rock story in which they kind of got into drugs and had all kinds of drug problems. So they released their first album in 1984, built up a kind of a decent following through uni radios and that kind of thing. But yeah, so drug problems led to the death of Slovak, and Irons left the band, eventually joining Pearl Jam in 1994, which is a nice coincidence that I didn't know. So that's cool. Yeah, so he went on to other things, but maybe not quite as successful. I don't know. Anyway, Pearl Jam, good band. Anyway, so but the key moment in the journey of the Chili Peppers was in 1988 and 89 when Chad Smith, the drummer, and John Frusciante, not entirely sure how to pronounce it, a guitarist, joined the band. And this is kind of the core lineup as we know it today. And it's changed over the years, but at the moment, as I say, it is that lineup of four of Kiedis, Flea, Smith, and Frusciante, who actually joined, rejoined in 2019. Anyway, so this lineup, they released Mother's Milk in '89, which was and that was kind of their most successful album at the time. The most successful track on that album was actually a cover of Higher Ground, Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground. And that one we could have talked about, but we knew we were already doing the Chili Peppers. That's a really kind of creative and really different cover. It's outrageous, to be honest. But anyway, yeah. And then 91, they released the aggressively named Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, which is one of their best albums, really. And their first, I guess, huge hit in Under the Bridge, which we all know, we all love. I think it probably my favourite song of theirs. But what it kind of marked was a beginning to the slightly softer side. So their first few albums very in your face, kind of slight kind of rap rock, but very punk and an intense sound. But Under the Bridge is a kind of very subtle song, and you can hear really great guitar. The interaction between Frusciante's guitar and Flea on the bass is really nice, and I think that's what kind of makes the song. I'm not actually going to play it because I think everyone knows it, and I'm going to play some of their slightly more obscure songs that you might not have heard, to hopefully, and you'll hopefully like. But yeah, and there's on that album also there's Give It Away, which is one of their most successful songs, and that is definitely full punk rock funk, and it's really, really intense. But that's a good song, and you can look that one up as well. So yeah, and then Frusciante left the band. He also had his fair share of drug problems, replaced by a guy named, I think, John Navarro. And then so in 95 they released One Hot Minute, which was a kind of pretty intense album again, because Navarro was a slightly less kind of melodic guitarist than Frusciante, who was more into kind of the heavy rock rhythms. So the first track I'm going to play from the Chili Peppers is from this album, One Hot Minute. It's called Aeroplane. It's lesser known, but I discovered this one recently, and I really like it. I think, and you can hear in the kind of the verse just after because it starts with the chorus, which is quite interesting. But then when you get into the verse, you can hear the kind of funk influences with the guitar. It's very funky, but the traditional mix of that funk with the kind of really rock sound. So now here it is, Aeroplane from the Chili Peppers.
Always spiked with pain. Looking in my own
So there's Aeroplane, and I mean, so in that verse you can hear the kind of funk guitar from Navarro, which I guess isn't traditional of him, but I think the signature bit is we hear the slap bass of Flea, which is possibly the greatest slap bass of all time, but it's one of the really iconic bits of the band, which underpins. I mean, Flea was there, from the beginning, and he's still in the band, and his bass style is integral to what they do.
Yeah, there's that lyric.
Zephyr, I know you're.
There's that lyric where Kiedis sings, "Someone better slap me," and the bass is slapping, and it's like
he is slapping so hard,
so hard.
That is the hard. I think that's one of the hardest I've heard him slap. I actually have. So I know Jules has been talking a lot about this because he's obviously this is his artist spotlight. But
no, Zephyr, you
no, I'm not trying to say this is a bad thing.
Joking.
I'm trying to say they've heard a lot of good detail about it. What I'm trying to say is that I'm a huge fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I've even got a Blood Sugar Sex Magic shirt, and I saw them live in 2016, and what got me into them is the relationship between the bass and the drums. And I know you said the bass and guitars, but in this album, it's not. It's more about the bass and the drums to me. And Flea's bass playing is just insane. He inspires me and also doesn't inspire me to play bass because he's so good. It's like I can't ever get that good. So what's the point? What's the point in playing if Flea exists? But also I've tried to learn how he plays because it's just his style is so iconic to the whole of that world of music, the whole rock. In fact, most music, I'd say, most modern music is the bass from Flea has been has influenced a lot of music. I just thought that that song really shows that actually. And I think I have heard that song before, but not properly. And I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I haven't heard
that song.
Before. What a gem! That's really cool.
I know, right? It's I'm not a huge fan of the other parts of the album. Yeah, so I'll give the pretext now. Personally, in terms of Chili Peppers, there's some of their stuff I find slightly kind of too heavy and in your face for me. I'm more a fan of the slightly softer stuff. But so most of that album's pretty intense. But that's a track, so it's a little hidden gem. So eventually, but because they had basically slight musical differences between Navarro, the replacement guitarist, and kind of the rest of the band, which led to him eventually leaving. And also the One Hot Minute kind of got mixed reviews. It wasn't quite as successful as the Blood Sugar Sex Magic and Mother's Milk. So in '98, crucially, Frusciante rejoins the band after serious drug problems leading him really close to death and kind of complete poverty. He was in rehab or something, and they went to ask him to rejoin the band, and he said yes kind of immediately. And what that led to was 1999's Californication, which is an iconic album. Amazing album cover as well, I must point out. I love the cover on that one. I guess it's their defining work. But I guess what you hear is why Frusciante, in my opinion, is so key to the band. Flea is iconic within their sound, but I think they've always done their best work with Frusciante in the band because it's his guitar work, which is you can hear it on on Californication, on what's the song called? Oh man, there's the other big one. This is terrible. Wait,
Scar Tissue?
I have the notes. Yeah, Scar Tissue, that's what I mean. On Scar Tissue, his guitar works really nice on that. So it's moving more away from the kind of rap, and intense lyric styles to more subtle riffs. Yeah, so the key songs, Californication, Scar Tissue, Other Side. But the one that I'm going to play from Californication is probably the most kind of downbeat one of the whole album. It's called Road Trippin'. And it's entirely acoustic, and again you hear a really nice interplay between Frusciante on the acoustic guitar and Flea on the bass, and it's kind of really it's one of the really reflective songs that they do. So it's showing kind of a different side to the band, which we hadn't really seen before, apart from kind of with Under the Bridge. So here it is, this Road Trippin' from Californication.
Road tripping with my two favorite allies. Fully loaded, we got snacks and supplies. time to leave this town. It's time to steal away. Let's go get lost anywhere in the USA. Let's go get lost, let's go get lost. Blue, you sit so pretty west of the one. Sparkle like with yellow icing, just a mirror for the sun. Just a mirror for the sun. Just a mirror for the sun. These smiling eyes are just a mirror for. So much has come before those battles.
So there it is, road tripping, and you can really, I mean, it's you know, one of their really, I don't know, you know, more reflective numbers, but it's really nice, and I love the key change when they, you know, say this, not the key change, like the chord change when they sing, you know, sun, you know, just a mirror for the sun, I think it says.
It's beautiful, that.
But yeah.
Sounds quite mysterious.
And the strings as well. The string section really adds a lot. Like when I first heard a string came out, I was like, is that a cello? And then I heard the rest of the strings come and I was like, oh, that's cool, because I haven't heard that song actually.
Yeah, me neither. These are
really nice
great
one.
finds.
Yeah, well, I like going. Yeah, there's something I did a while back. I just kind of went onto like the, you know, the Apple Music page, and I just kind of went through the albums and just had a listen to like the songs, you know, that I didn't know, and then you find little gems.
Yeah, and the chords are nice as well.
Yeah, so that's
the
sorry?
chords are nice as well. Very simple. Just a quick listen. If we're saying it's in C minor, which it probably isn't, it would be a C minor, then A flat major, then G major, which is it's really nice. It kind of, it gives you, the G major really wants to resolve back to that C minor, and it's something you don't hear that much in pop, like kind of 4-chord pop. But it's kind of you'd hear it more in like, I don't know, like Spanish flamenco music.
No, that's not a genre I was expecting to talk about.
Well, you know, it just sounds quite. I don't know. Do you hear that side of the song, like slightly Spanish?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm being.
Yeah. I mean,
offensive.
the acoustic guitar is a very kind of
of course,
Spanish and
yeah.
South American thing, you know. So I guess maybe that's deliberate. I don't know.
I mean, John Frusciante is
Red Hot Chili Peppers, the new flamenco.
Oh
band.
yes.
He's a very prolific guitar player, though. Like his solo stuff as well. Some of my mates have showed me. His solo stuff is apparently really. I haven't actually had to listen to it yet, but apparently it's really. Some people they prefer it to Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff because of how detailed the guitar playing
that's a
is.
big
I know.
claim.
Right? I was a bit shocked. I was like, really? Better? But anyway,
Yeah. So there's Californication, which I guess maybe that was their confirmation as like the mainstream, like huge band, you know, just on the turn of the millennium. Big times. Anyway, so then in 2002, they released By the Way, which was an even more considered album with songs like By the Way, Can't Stop, which I wouldn't call that considered, but you know, it is an all-time riff.
Yeah.
Again, we're not playing that one, but we all know what it is.
That is probably one of my if it was my favorite song for like 4 or 5 years. It's kind of moved away from that as I've listened to more like R&B and hip hop. But when I was really into rock, that was by far my favorite song. It's so catchy. I mean, yeah, like you said, we're not going to listen to it, but I think if you know Red Hot Chili Peppers, you're probably going to know Can't Stop.
Yeah.
You know, Can't Stop. It's a good motivational one as well. That build up at the beginning is
Good for working out.
Yeah. But we can't talk about By the Way without talking about the Zephyr song for obvious reasons, which is it's a like in all seriousness, it's a really good song. One of my favorite songs of theirs, because also I kind of noticed. So you know, with Can't Stop, you hear this like the kind of rap vocal style is kind of very intense, but in the Zephyr song, it's the fast lyrics, so it's a slight nod to, you know, kind of Kiedis's rap tendencies, but on a much more kind of considered and subtle riff underneath, which I think kind of talks about like how the band changed from like a kind of pure punk rock, you know, really heavy stuff to kind of you know, I don't know, more musical adventures. I don't know. Oh god, that was creepy.
Musical
Anyway.
adventure.
Okay, so we're gonna play the Zeva song, but yeah, it's a really good one.
Can I get your hand to ride on? Just a piece of leg to bite on. What a night to fly my kite on. Do you wanna flash a light on? Take a look, it's on display for you. Coming down all night today. Did you meet your fortune teller? Get it off with no propeller. Do it up, it's on with Stella. What a way to finally smell her. Pick it up, it's not too strong for you. Take a piece and pass it on. Fly away on my Zephyr. I feel it more than ever. And in this perfect weather.
There we go. Fly away on my Zephyr.
Aww. That was actually one of the first songs I
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
heard. My parents played
No
it for
way.
me, and then apparently they cried because I was their firstborn. So
Aw.
and they just played that song. Yeah, it's a great. I actually like not being egotistical and like, oh, it's about me. It's actually a really good song. Like,
I thought you were going to say it's actually about me.
They actually wrote it for you when you were born.
they wrote it for me because when was it released?
2002.
Oh, that was 2 years before I was born.
2.
Nah, couldn't have been.
Well,
They
they,
could
you
have
know,
preempted it.
I'm sure they.
Yeah, they're predicting.
Yeah.
It's actually because the word Zephyr, it means like wind in Greek, or like a Greek god of some sort. I think it's the west wind or something. Greek god of west wind. So they must have scoured like the dictionaries to find some like cool word, because I'm sure they had like a theme in mind. And they're like, oh, what's a word that means that? And then they're like, oh, this is a different word. But yeah, the song's so nice. And actually, they use sorry.
So Zach, what's the Greek origination of your name?
Jazz God, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's
So wait,
fair
you're
enough.
God of the Wind, is that it?
The West Wind. Oh, believe
And-
me, I
and
got
Zach
in
is
primary
God
school.
of
Somehow
jazz.
people managed to turn that into God of Fart.
Yeah. I mean,
They're
I wasn't going to do
like-
that on this sophisticated podcast.
Yeah,
but-
you are. That is the door. It's an open goal, and you just got to, you know.
Oh,
this
that's a
gotta work.
sophisticated joke for primary school. I'm impressed.
Yeah, they found a dictionary. They
Yeah,
found
to
my
be fair,
name in the dictionary and said, "Look, hi, it says wind," and then they pretended that it said fart, and I couldn't really read, so I was just like, okay.
Oh.
I mean, I could, but I didn't bother to fact check them. I was just like, anyway, trauma aside. No, I was going to say something about the production. Jeez. No, it
Okay,
uses.
well,
I think it uses sample drums or like not live drums, because that is. I mean, it does use live drums at some point in it, but at the beginning, the snare sounds kind of more like a kind of electronic clap. It doesn't really sound like a snare.
Yeah, it's like a drum
it's like
machine, isn't it,
It's
at the
really
beginning?
cool, actually. It's so different from. I don't think I've ever heard drum machine in any of their other songs, apart from that one. And it's really weird, but it's really cool.
Also, the change to the chorus is just it's so uplifting, because the verse is just so crazily different. And also, you get to hear.
It's really
it
weird.
is quite weird.
But it's a change that I've kind of noticed that, like, I guess after kind of By the Way, you actually hear that kind of change into the chorus or like as a pre-chorus in a lot of songs. It's a kind of almost. I mean, it's complete. It's like the complete opposite of punk rock and funk, and like it's a really kind of restrained, kind of soft rock kind of vibe. It's really weird. It works completely as like a contrast, as you say, but like in some of their later songs, which I'll talk about in a bit, but you can kind of hear that vibe again. And I guess it's part of their transformation.
Yeah, and also the transformation in Anthony Kiedis' voice is immense. Like the verse is really he's like, you can just really hear his groove, and it's very like, you know, disjointed, sort of kind of rappy style. And then it's much softer, and you get to hear his lovely tone in the chorus.
It's dulcet tones.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's true. Yeah, he's quite an amazing vocalist. We haven't really talked about him yet, but like as you say, like the range of styles he can do, like from kind of almost rap and stuff, and the early something kind of like it can't stop. It's really intense and shouty. But in the Zephyr song, it's very very he's just singing. And
He's got a
nice
very
voice.
unique voice. Like
So
you can always
that's-
recognise either Red Hot Chili Peppers song. I don't know if he does solo stuff, but you can always recognise his voice. It's so unique. I really like
Yes.
that about. That's probably my favorite. One of my favorite things about like Red Hot Chili Peppers music is you can always recognise it by his voice. So it's I don't know what the timbre of
I
it.
think
So
he has quite like a distinct way of pronouncing like vowels, like I know it's something I noticed when I listen to him. And I'm like, yeah, that's a kind of a slightly odd way of pronouncing that.
He pronounces
word.
everything.
Or like,
He goes. He does a lot of his.
he enunciates it.
Enunciates everything. Enunciate.
Zephyr, you're the one talking about dictionaries.
That's true. I was actually going to say a really nerdy word, which is that this song was the bellwether for the rest of their his more vocal styles, but it doesn't really make sense in the context. Bellwether's like
the what?
It's like a kind of indicator of a trend. It's like the leader of a trend. So like something starts. That's what I'm saying. I was going to use a nerdy word, but I decided against it. But now you forced me back.
clearly, the trend of
Force my
using
hand.
bellwether hasn't caught on. Maybe bellwether should be the bell. So, can you do your dad joke sound effect, please?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the glory. Here we go.
Thank you. A little late there, James.
Awful.
There is.
Awful.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't quite ready, but we'll be ready next time. That's one of the beauties of this this live recording. We can do stuff like that. We've got a soundboard. Haha. Anyway, so by the way, and then they moved on to in 2006 they released monster 28-track double album Stadium Arcadium. With songs like Danny California, which is just ridiculously good. It's unfair. But I'm not gonna play Danny California. I'm sorry, I'm probably being really annoying right now. I guess maybe you just want to hear like all the classics and the good ones. I'm only gonna play a random song that you haven't heard of. So so here's Strip My Mind, which is from that album. And I'll just point out the intro to this song. Really random observation, but it feels like it sounds like a kind of Western. It sounds like you'd hear it in like the intro credits of a Tarantino film. You'll see what I mean when I play it, but it's kind of because it sounds like kind of Western or something, and then it kind of gets into like the groove, and it's Chili Peppers. Anyway, I'll play it now because before that sounds really weird. Yeah. So there's Strip My Mind, and I guess you can hear in that bit just before we faded out the recording when they kind of go, oh yeah, it's that same vibe as like the Zephyr song chorus, just this like really like contrast. Yeah, but that's another little gem that's in. I mean, to be honest, it's hard to find gems in Stadium Arcadium because there's a whole 28 tracks, so you don't really know where to start.
There's only like 2 tracks that I recognise from that album, really. Of course, Danny California and Snow. Basically the
Snow,
first
yeah, that's
two
another,
tracks,
yeah.
and then
There's also
the rest
Wet,
of them.
Wet Sand.
Like, I'll start that album, and then that's it.
Do you know Wet Sand? It's beautiful, kind of ballad
No.
vibes. Well, you should check it out then.
Oh, right.
Yeah, also, that is a pretty
Okay.
niche find-ish. Well, for Chili Peppers. That's 33,000 streams, according...
Wow,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Only
No
that.
way.
I
Nothing.
mean,
How do you get that?
it is nothing. I mean, some tracks
I'm
have
quite proud
have
of that.
less.
It's on Spotify,
Yeah, just on
presumably.
Spotify. No, yeah, not...
Yeah. I'm. I mean, wait. So that would have qualified in the old niche
That would have
single
definitely
song, which you would
qualified.
not have expected.
I meant to
from,
say 33
from,
million streams, not
Chili Peppers song.
33,000 streams.
Oh, okay. That changes
I just
things.
realised
I was
what I
gonna
did.
say, I don't think there's
That's-
any Chili Peppers that's getting less
you
than
guys
a
were
million
like-
streams. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
I was
no
like,
way
what?
there's a
Sorry.
Chili Peppers song
I'm
with
not at music school. We don't do
33,000.
academics. Yeah, yeah.
And that's why you're at music school, yeah. Oh my god.
It's okay.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah,
a niche
sorry.
single. It's actually, bigger than most bands can ever aspire to get to. But I guess, yeah, in a Chili Peppers context,
that is little numbers.
It's a bit
yeah.
niche. But it's a
Compared
nice
to they're
one.
almost
Yeah.
a billion
Okay.
in Under the Bridge. I mean, like,
Yeah,
and
that's just
Californication as
ridiculous,
well,
isn't it?
and Can't Stop being over 500 million. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hot, yeah.
That's crazy.
500 million. It's like
That's
690
a lot of people.
million streams,
Uh,
and that's
800
excluding.
I want to see their Spotify rap.
But that's excluding. If you think about it, that's excluding all the record and album sales that they did, like physical
That's
copy
crazy.
sales, which
Yeah.
would have been way more popular back in the day. Like Spotify's,
Yeah. And I think that they're all, platinum
Oh,
or whatever,
yeah, they've
the
gone-
technical
they're as big as
thing
you
is.
get, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge. Anyway, so then it's getting quite funny now, but Frusciante left again after
Yes, he did.
staying
Yes, he
in
did.
Arcadium. He went off to do his solo stuff
enough.
that I think Zephyr was
Yeah.
talking about. But they continued. They replaced him with another guitarist whose name I did not write down, so apologies to him. They did. Then they did "I'm With You" in 2011, which wasn't particularly huge or successful. But I'll just point out, I'm not going to play it, but there's a nice song in there that I know called "The Adventures of
That's
Rain
the one I
Dance
was going to
Maggie."
say. That's the good one from that. There's
you-
two
it's
off that
good.
album that I really like. There's that one, and there's Ethiopia, which is actually it's okay. It's not as good as The Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie's got a really cool groove. But Ethiopia is also quite cool.
There's a good, nice
Yeah,
bass line
yeah.
on it.
Oh, pardon me. But yeah,
Um,
that album's not super popular.
No, that's it. If you want to go have a listen to The Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie, it's a good fun one. Great track name, to be honest. It's not a name that you typically
Yeah.
expect from the Chili Peppers. But yeah, it's good fun. Anyway, and then their latest album, The Getaway, in 2016. And this one, I mean, it was really good. It grew on me. I remember I bought it actually as a CD for some reason.
right.
There's back in 2016. I know. What a dinosaur. And yeah, so which meant that I listened to it quite a lot actually, and it was kind of, I guess at that time was actually my introduction to the Chili Peppers, really, to actually get to know them properly. And there's some well-known songs in there. Dark Necessities, The Getaway were pretty successful. But I'm going to play Sick Love, which is a really nice song. It's really funky. It's classic Chili Peppers. It's the kind of rock funk mix. There's that kind of restrained pre-chorus thing that we were talking about. You'll hear that. It was one of my favorite songs in the album. I think it's really underplayed because I think it's really, the groove is really quite something. The guitar line is great, even though it's not Frusciante. But yeah, okay, so here it is, Sick Love from The Getaway.
Say goodbye to house and everything you own. California dreaming is a petty bone. LA screaming, you're my home. Vanity is plastic, but it's really fair. I can smell the Prozac in your pretty hair. heart is stronger than your head. And this location is my home. Stick and move, you're living in a quick world. Got a heavy life for such a tiny girl. Born into it, that's for sure. Rivers get connected so much stronger than expected. Well, sick love come to wash us away.
All right, so there it is, Sick Love from The Getaway, and yeah, it's a nice one. It it's just nice. And towards the end, there's a really nice guitar solo moment, which I always enjoy.
Can I mention the guitarist that did join for those two albums, The Getaway and the I'm With You, is it? Yeah, his name's Josh Klinghoffer, and he was actually the drummer for John Frusciante's solo stuff, which is quite interesting. But he's also a prolific guitarist. He's played, I think he was with Pearl Jam as well at some point. They all cross over, apparently.
Everyone was.
But yeah, he got fired because John Frusciante was like showing interest in joining the band again. And they were just like, yeah, we want him over Josh. And I feel bad. He was really good because he's the one I saw live in 2016, just after they released The Getaway. And it was really good because I saw this song off that album called Goodbye Angels. And that's my favourite song off that album, then Dark Necessities. And it's got a really cool bass solo at the end. It's so sick. Anyway, yeah, I was kind of sad when you weren't going to play that one, but it's okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. That one's a really good one as well that you just played. It's super easy listening, and I really like it's it's very very standard Chili Peppers sort of vibe.
Yeah, but there's more restrained stuff in that album as well. There's like The Hunter and Encore, which are very kind of, and like The Longest Wave and stuff, which are all very low
it's a
key.
nice album.
But yeah, so the final chapter. Sorry, as I realise this episode's been quite long, but the final chapter in the Chili Peppers story is Frusciante rejoining. I think it was in 2019. He came back. So now the band is the lineup as we know and love it, and they are touring this year in 22, which I found out only too late. They're actually coming to Montreal, but it's sold out, so that's unfortunate. But exciting news is that they're expected to be releasing an album just before the tour. So we have new Chili Peppers music coming,
and it's John Frusciante.
So that's the album that they're touring.
John Frusciante, Chili Peppers.
Yes.
Okay.
Oof. So we can get excited. Yeah. And one of the things, and it's not, so a lot of bands, kind of, they started in 1983, so it's quite something they're still going, but it's not just kind of a band, that's like keep going and kind of declining. Like, in my opinion, like the Getaway album was kind of, I mean, it wasn't, By the Way and Californication level, but it was really good stuff. So I think we can expect good things, and I'm pretty excited for it.
Might even have to donate an episode to that when it comes out.
Yeah, we might. Evening with Sonic stuff.
I want to mention, quickly.
I've lost the ability. I've been speaking
like you
too
just
much.
said, they started in 1983. They are almost 60 years old. They are still rocking
Really?
like as if they're in their 40s or 30s. Like they are still like just as
I'm
much
assuming
stage presence.
they're still doing their shows without any shirts on, right? Because
they
that's
have
always
so
been the
much
thing.
stage presence. It's actually, you just reminded me of a what's that massive show that they have in America? That massive festival that they always do. That's like always like
Woodstock.
Yeah, Woodstock 19 or maybe 2000 something. There's a one with Lee. He comes on with no clothes on. Like no clothes on, and you can go on YouTube. You can see it's all there. I'm like, how is this not taken off YouTube? Like,
When was
he's
this?
the only time. Like at the very beginning, he's holding his bass out and he's naked. Like he isn't even wearing a sock on like his thing or whatever. He is literally naked. Because that's the thing they have done as well. They wear socks on their nether regions, but he literally came on wearing nothing, and then his bass is the only thing covering it when he's playing. It's mental. Like, oh my god, those guys are like, they are drugs. Like, they don't need drugs, they are drugs. Like, they're actually crazy. But anyway, yeah.
Well, there's a little story my dad always tells, because he was once at, like, I don't know, some kind of business, like, conference or something. Anyway, but they were staying in the same hotel as the Chili Peppers were. And he shared a lift with, I don't know if it was all 4 of them, but at least a couple of the band members. But my dad, being my dad, and not a huge Chili Peppers fan, he didn't like say anything. His main comment is they were quite short, and apparently, and he assumed that all the screaming girls outside weren't for him but for the band, which I think is a fair assumption. But you never know.
Your dad could have fans. You don't know.
You know.
That's hilarious.
What a waste, though.
But yeah, anyway.
Not a Chili Peppers fan.
I know.
Nah.
No, I know. But yeah.
Well.
Okay. Well, I guess I think that brings us to the end of episode 1 of season 2. Actually, I don't know. It's actually episode 11, let's say. But the first episode of season 2. So thanks so much for tuning in, whether it was on YouTube or just through the usual podcast app. I will, as usual, be annoying and ask you to subscribe and to the podcast. Give us a rating or like a review. And now that we're on YouTube, I can say the corny thing. Please like and subscribe. Yes. But in all seriousness, do get in touch if you got any ideas for the brief. And check out our social media. We'll be putting out clips of episodes kind of slightly before they come out. You know, building the hype.
We're professional internet
because the hype
people.
is always huge.
Oh yes,
exactly. Yeah. We're learning. It's gonna be huge. We're getting Chili Peppers size. You know.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So I think that's all the housekeeping done. But yeah, please, do all the interaction stuff, like, subscribe. You know, that helps. It helps grow the podcast. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time as I try to find the intro jingle. There we go. All right. It's very, very smooth. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time.
Sidetrack, the music podcast.